Can you feel it stirring beneath the streets of Detroit? The electric buzz that signals something big, something different? Has the wind finally changed directions at Ford Field? Could this be the off-season that fans from Motown felt in their bones but dared not believe? What if, just what if, the Detroit Lions are about to pull off a move that not only reshapes their defense, but sets the entire NFC North on fire? Fans, hold on tight, because the rumors swirling around this team are more than just whispers. They're shockwaves rolling through the front office corridors, rippling outward with the tension of a city desperate for redemption. Imagine a veteran edge rusher, someone with enough mileage but still that hunger to prove the doubters wrong, suddenly available and ready to drop into a defense that's been building quietly, piece by piece, into something fierce and formidable. The insiders won't say much, but the pattern is undeniable. Detroit is eyeing a game changer, a guy who could plug right into a lineup that already boasts talent and depth, adding a grit-laden fuel to this combustible mix. This isn't just about signing any free agent. It's about recalibrating a defense that has clawed its way back from the depths, a defense hungry to roar louder, faster, and smarter. And now, here he comes, Ogbo Okoronkwo. Yes, that's right, the former Browns edge rusher, a man whose name might not make headlines every Sunday, but whose game tape tells a story of resilience, hustle, and flashes of the type of impact plays that shift momentum in a heartbeat. Detroit Lions fans, hear me out. Okoronkwo isn't some washed-up veteran handed a pity contract. No, at 30 years old, he's got the fire of a guy in what's possibly his last big shot to ETCH his mark in the league. After all, he's thrived. When the stakes were highest, his contract year in Houston was his best season yet, piling up tackles, sacks, and quarterback pressures that would make any defensive coordinator's heart skip a beat. This is the kind of player who flies under the radar, wearing the cloak of underestimation, only to show up on film as a versatile edge who can set the edge, rush the passer, and hold his ground against a run, something the Lions need if they want to stop offenses cold and build momentum that carries deep into January. And think about the Lions' current defensive lineup, sure. We have stars coming back from injury like Hutchinson, and fresh blood like rookie Ain Hassan bursting. With potential, but depth and savvy veterancy on the edges? That's the missing piece. Okoronkwo brings that mix, an affordable, contract year bargain who could slot seamlessly opposite the brightest star on our defensive line, much like how the Browns hoped he'd complement Myles Garrett. Detroit needs that counterpart. Chess move that changes how opposing quarterbacks sweat when they scan the Lions' front. Detroit fans, remember the pain of seasons where injuries and weak depth meant watching our defense fold in critical moments. Remember the excruciating losses that felt like they ripped out the heart of a hungry city still clawing for respect? This signing could be the rebirth, the subtle yet seismic shift that tips the scales from heartbreak to hopeful anticipation. What if bringing in Okoronkwo means fewer snaps for the untested, less pressure on the youngsters, and more consistent pressure on every offense we face? What if this gritty, explosive athlete, with his bench press strength and elite agility, could be the veteran presence that steadies the storm and rallies the whole defense around a shared purpose, victory? But here's the tension, what if this gamble backfires? What if the locker room chemistry shifts in ways we never expected, or the salary cap, while currently healthy, feels the pinch of new additions? What if the man who played well in contract years doesn't find his stride behind Detroit's blue and silver? These are the questions that keep fans like us up late wondering if this move will be remembered as the masterstroke or the near miss. And yet, there's electricity in that uncertainty, because when these dominoes start to fall, the Lions have a chance to rewrite their narrative in a way that echoes all the way back to those near-glory days, those seasons where Detroit's defense nearly roared loud enough to break the curse. Imagine the headlines, the storytelling after a game-turning sack, or a forced fumble from Okoronkwo on prime time in Motown, maybe. This is the spark that sets off the wildest Lions offseason in history, a story of second chances, grit, and the relentless pursuit of greatness finally finding its moment. So, Lions faithful, mash that like button and drop your belief in the comments if you're ready for Detroit to flip the script and bring in a weapon that could be the difference between another painful rebuild and the launch of a defense built to endure and conquer. The stage is set, the whispers are real, and the clock is ticking toward a decision that could change everything. And if hold your breath, because this ride might just be starting. All right, all Lions faithful, wrench your focus tight and lock. This is the kind of seismic moment that makes a fan's heart pound, like thunder rolling over the Gratiot Bridge at midnight. Picture this, Ford Field, under the glow of those unforgiving stadium lights. The crowd, a living, breathing beast, erupted with a roar so primal, it shakes the bones of every lion lurking in the trenches. Now, imagine that roar rising to a fever. Pitched not just off a game-winning drive, but because Detroit's front office finally pulled a move so calculated, so raw, and so defiant it shuts down the naysayers for good. This isn't fantasy fodder for armchair analysts. We're talking about a chess move that could shuffle the entire NFC North landscape like a pack of cards at a Detroit street poker game. What if adding Ogbo Okoronkwo isn't just a piece of the puzzle, but the catalyst that wakes a beast long? Kept in chains one whose echo might silence the Packers, rattle the Vikings' backbone, and crush the Bears' hope before the first quarter even ends? Could this signal a power shift so potent that it redraws the rivalry maps etched into our collective soul since the days of Barry Sanders, weaving through defenders like whispers in the night? Speaking of ghosts, how often have we stared at those? Heartbreaking scoreboards, from the grinding 0-16 debacle that haunted every fan's dreams, to the agonizing Calvin Johnson era, where talent blossomed but glory slipped teasingly through our fingers like sand? Remember the cruel irony of Caldwell's firing when hope seemed rekindled only to flicker and fade. What about last year's playoff run, that fragile, electric thread that reminded us painfully how close we've been, how so many wild card losses, clutch moments missed, league collapses that shredded our faith, have stained our playoff story. With sorrow? Look at Dan Orlovsky's frozen moment in the end zone, one snap capturing years of struggle in a frame. That's the raw plea beneath every cheer, that scar that fuels every hope that this time will be different. And now, with Okoronkwo potentially stepping into those cleats, there's a chance we craft a new narrative of defense back from the ashes. Hungry, smart, ruthless, blending the ferocity of yesterday's legends with the relentless spirit of today's Lions. The locker room buzz is already palpable. Humming with questions, how will Hutchinson's comeback mesh with this new armory? Will the youth like Aim Hassan rise to meet this veteran's challenge? Or will a shift in locker room balance ignite unseen tensions? Detroit's brass knows the stakes. They're not just signing a player. They're courting destiny, tempting fate along a razor's edge. Yet damn, if the stakes aren't electrifying for better or worse, the looming salary cap constraints slice like a blade through these dreams. The gamble? Monumental. Failure would echo across Motown like a dirge for yet another decade dragged through the mud. But success? It will be a phoenix rising that lights fire under a fan base, long scorned but never broken. Picture the media frenzy, the surge of pride flooding through Detroit's streets, the electric shock of a sack that flips a division game, the clutch strip that turns a must-win into a statement. This is what we've waited for, the return of a Lions defense that doesn't just play, but intimidates, that hounds quarterbacks like the ghosts of our past legends watching from the shadows. So here's the cliffhanger, the eternal question burning bright in this chilly Motown night. Can this gritty, unheralded edge rusher finally be the herald of transformation, the face of a defense reborn from decades of heartbreak? Or will he become yet another footnote in the city's long saga of near misses and agonizing what dash could dash have dash beens? As the clock ticks down and the contracts hang in the balance, Detroit holds its breath ready to roar, or forced once again to howl into the void. So Lions, do you feel that pulse? The war drum beating louder with every tick? Because the next chapter is about to be written, and this city, This team, this family, we're going to be on the edge of our seats, screaming into the night, chasing the dream that maybe, just maybe, this time, the roar we unleash will be the one they'll never forget.